Welcome to the Sherry Andrea Show. Your host, Sherry Andrea, brings her listeners interesting discussions and topics related to spiritual development, metaphysics, and energy work. Often referred to as a psychic empath, she is also a healer, personal development coach, author, and specializes in teaching advanced techniques in the law of attraction. Welcome, and here is your host, Sherry Andrea.
Hi, and thank you for joining me today, and thank you for listening. I usually do my show Tuesday and Thursday at 10 p.m. However, I'm doing a Saturday show because I'm very excited to say that I have a guest on today that I'm really excited about, Michael and Sarah Feeley, and they are with us today to speak on many different subjects. And so if you're listening, you are going to love the show. If you are not able to listen to the whole show, just remember that you can always come back, listen on right online on Blog Talk Radio, or download it so that you can listen to it at any time. And we're also going to give out information about where you can find Michael and Sarah Feeley and all their information and their books. So let's get started right away. I want to welcome to you Michael and Sarah Feeley, and they are ex-police officers. And they actually have a unique story about awakening or coming to realize metaphysical abilities they had while they were actually still working as police officers. Hi, Michael. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Sherry.
Hello, Sherry. Yeah, good evening to you.
You too. And how are you today?
You're very well, thank you. It's now early evening in the UK, so you're very well. Thank you very much.
And we spoke for a few minutes before we came on the air, and I had asked you how the weather was and everything, and you said that it was a little bit better there now, and they're in the UK, so like they said. So that is also the reason why we had the 2 p.m. show, so that it would be great for both of us. And now, Michael and Sarah, you are... and I'm going to let you speak about this. You not only have a website called michaelandsarahfeeley.com, but you are also you're authors. You do speaking engagements. You've done many radio shows discussing not only your books but many different topics. How did you end up doing what you're doing from being police officers?
Yeah, well, it's quite a long story, really, Sherry. But whilst in the police force, obviously me and Nick met and got together. And when we actually did meet, something seemed to be triggered sort of within our brains almost. There was some kind of spark of awakening as soon as we met, really. We started to experience all kinds of weird and wonderful things, from UFOs to spirit attachments, and starting to learn all about those subject areas. And really, in the police force, we were very unhappy for quite a while because of the way things were going. It was kind of losing integrity by the day, manipulating targets and figures and things like that, and being asked to do things that just weren't right. So we were very unhappy already. But at the same time, we went through a kind of a spiritual awakening, really, which it started with the spirit attachment of a young girl, a Victorian teenager actually, called Sarah Jensen. Okay. And this really, to cut a very long story short, this goes right back into my childhood, where this little girl used to be seen quite a lot around the house by children. My mum did some investigation and found out there was a Sarah Jensen girl that lived in the house, or lived, was on that plot of land. And there was a sort of a weird story behind it. And some years later, when Nick and I got together, we saw a medium who confirmed to us both that Sarah Jensen was still around us, and that she wanted us to help her, that she felt she'd been taken by another's hand, which she confirmed to us to mean that she'd been murdered. And she wanted us to look into it, so we decided that we might be able to help out. We tried everything we could, but several months later, we were none the wiser as to what had happened. We couldn't find any trace of this little girl. Okay. And we kind of had to sort of sweep it under the carpet for a little while. But then we decided and realised that it was best to send this girl into the light with the help of the media who'd offered her assistance, because it wasn't doing her any good, it wasn't doing us any good keeping her hanging around.
Right.
And what happened was, after having made that decision, things pretty much rapidly changed on that day. We started to feel all kinds of weird things in the house. Mick started to feel as if he was being possessed and actually fought it off. There was a very odd atmosphere at home. And then we went and stayed at my mum's for the night because she was aware of Sarah Jensen. And the medium was going to come and help us the next day. And we went to bed in the early hours of that morning. And at about 25 past, 3:30 in the morning, both Nick and I went from a sleeping position to literally sat up in bed. And I'm looking across at Nick and he's screaming hysterically like he's being attacked. And I'm sort of trying to calm him down and sort of bring him round. And he's looking through me as if I'm not there. Very vacant. Which is, a very terrifying experience, really. And, I realised there was nothing I could do for him. He was kind of somewhere else. And I started trying to sort of scream for my mum, but nothing was coming out. It was as if I was being stifled. And then all of a sudden Nick came round and looked at me and said, "What's the matter? What's wrong?" And I said to him that he'd been screaming and I've been trying to help him calm him down. And he said, no, I haven't been screaming. He said, "It's you that's been screaming and I've been trying to help calm you down."
Wow.
So we had this very, very odd occurrence, really, and it was very, it was very traumatising. It was absolutely terrifying, really. But what we found out the next day from the media was that we were actually reliving the murder of Sarah Jensen. And we went through her final moments. We pretty much survived the murder, if you want to look at it in those terms. And it took us a little while to get over it because we obviously experienced the emotions and everything that went with it and the terror. But together we did get through it, and since that day, it really did open us up in so many different ways, and we started to experience lots and lots of beautiful things, and we learned a lot more about the world and what's going on in the world and life, really, and what it's all about. So quite an interesting awakening, really.
Wow, yes, that really, really is. And where do you go from somewhere like that? Really, the next day, I mean, do you wake up and decide that you're going to work towards the path you're on now? How did you end up coming to that, deciding that you're going to do what you're doing now today?
I think once, it's a unique experience to actually relive someone's murder to survive. And I think from that point forward, it was a case of there's obviously more to reality, there's more to life than working, 9 to 5, being born, working till you die, and then dying, and that's it. There's obviously more to the universe than just that. And we started to look into these things, but not only did we look into them, this information was just dropping at our feet, and we began to get into the angelic realm. They used to visit us and still do, the Ascended Masters. Just a couple of weeks ago, we had Ascended Master Kuan Yin in our bedroom in the early hours of the morning, and things just sort of sparked and opened up for us. And as Sarah said, there's some switch somewhere that was actually flipped and opened us up to a new reality.
Now, did you actually did you have to do any spiritual or metaphysical work? I mean, did you literally have to say, okay, we're awakening, we now have to work on developing this? Or did you literally completely awaken?
I think we completely awakened, but it was something that was completely natural. We did sort of join up with local spiritual groups and sort of get some help in the early stages. But everything that was coming to us was pretty much natural. It was just happening without any effort, really.
Okay, so you didn't. Now, do you today have certain things that you do to keep yourself clear? Like, do you? I'm sure my listeners would love to know what you do. Like, do you meditate? Do you use crystals to help keep yourself clear? What do you do to help keep yourself clear through all the work you're doing, so that you can be constantly open to the experiences, to the connections that are coming through from the ascended masters and angels? What are you kind of doing on your end?
I think the main thing that we're doing at the moment is connecting as much as we can with nature, because nature is a higher consciousness anyway. When we walk through parks and trees, we're actually connecting to their higher frequencies, which is sort of elevating our own frequencies. And that seems to be the main thing that is working for us. Whenever we've walked through nature, you can pretty much guarantee that it sort of enhances the energies of the house when we get back. And that's pretty much the nights in which we see most things.
Okay. And now, what are some of the topics and subjects that you and Sarah speak about, that you and Shara share your knowledge about?
We pretty much do a chronological and comprehensive talk, really. We start at the beginning, a little bit of background about ourselves and how we met and whatever. Then we talk about Sarah Jensen, and then we chronologically go through everything that's happened to us to where we are now, where we're actually being guided to shine our light and expose some of the dark things that are actually going on planet Earth. And sometimes it can be a very deep rabbit hole, but we are being guided, and we've been sent spirit guides to help us in that direction to shine our light into dark places.
Okay, and what are some of the dark things you're referring to? Because I've already like been reading on your website and everything, and so I understand. But some of the things that you speak to people about and that you share knowledge about is New World Order, UFOs, anything related to the mind. Mind control and what people can do, what's most important.
As Mick says, it's really the mixed bag of things, but with regards to sort of the darker side of what's going on, as you said, Sherry, we've got the New World Order. For anybody that's not aware of what that is, literally just put it into the internet, and it's absolutely overrun with this New World Order and its agenda. And basically it is... It's like a global conspiracy, really, and the idea is to create a one-world system, a global system, where the few people that are actually really in control of the world at the moment, albeit we don't realise that, will actually have more greater control over world events, over global events. They call it globalisation, and they try to make this happen in so many different ways. The game plan is to obviously to end up with a one-world government, a one-world currency, a one-world religion, a one world army, basically a one world everything. So the few at the top of this pyramid, this scheme, can control everything else and all events around the world. They dress it up and make it sound that it's a fantastic thing and it's brilliant for all of us. But when you look into it, you realise actually it's very sinister in what they plan to do. Not that they're going to get there. I mean, they have gotten so far with it, but I wouldn't bank on them getting all the way, because people are rapidly waking up to what's going on.
Exactly.
And with regards to that, I mean, as you say, conspiracy theories, a lot of people sort of write these things off literally as just conspiracy theories, but when you look into it, there's so much fact and so much evidence to back up these so-called theories.
Right.
I mean, with the New World Order itself, I mean, you can just go onto YouTube and type it in the words similar to George Bush New World Order or Tony Blair New World Order, and there's video footage of them actually speaking openly about the New World Order and trying to bring in this New World Order. So it's all there in black and white for us to see, really, if we sort of know what to look for. So that's the main goal, the main aim of the system that's in place at the minute, and they'll try to make it happen through so many different things. 9/11 was a major event that sort of moved this one world agenda forward quite a lot by invading Iraq, Afghanistan, and all the other countries in the Middle West that are on the list. And the idea is to bring them all together, unite them under this one world banner eventually. So many different things that take place to try and push this forward. One of the other things is, you mentioned UFOs. I mean, Nick and I started to see a lot of UFOs at one point, and using our intuition, we could feel that we're seeing things from all kinds of different sides, different places. Some were quite light, some were quite dark,
right.
Some were kind of roundabout in the middle, and intuitively we could feel that. There is a lot of good out there. There's a lot of cosmic beings, if you like, that are actually assisting us at the moment, helping us in this awakening process. But there are also those that are trying to hinder as much as possible the awakening process because they're also behind this new world system.
Exactly.
And so UFOs are being majorly sort of pushed upon us at the minute, and they're always in the news and media, on the television, on the internet. There's a lot of sort of desensitisation going on with the UFO side of things, so it's worth being aware,
right.
When this happens, because there's sort of plans in place to sort of introduce us eventually to some beings not from this place, and might not necessarily be what they seem to be.
And a part of that agenda, does that have to do with, when you speak of desensitizing people, does that have to do with getting people to a place where they've set up this fear program to get people in a place where they are ready to say, yeah, we need help. We need like a savior of some sort to come and help us, so that eventually, the UFOs, they could be kind of brought in with us being fooled into thinking they're going to help.
That's exactly what they're planning, really. And again, you look into this, and there's so much evidence to back this up. They plan eventually to introduce us openly to these beings, who will present themselves as as saviours. Really, they might not say that, but that's what they'll portray themselves as. And with the state the world is in at the moment, and things are seem to be getting worse, people are in a desperate situation, and we are, literally calling out for some assistance because things are getting so desperate that, people are losing their homes, people are having to live in cardboard boxes on the streets, things like that. It's getting so tough that we really are in a desperate situation. So if all of a sudden, some beings from another place turned up and said, we've got the answer to all your prayers and we're going to make all this stuff go away, then lots of people would openly would welcome it with open arms, and that's the idea. What I would say is that we don't need anybody to come and solve the problems for us. Yes, we've got assistance from other places, we've got other beings assisting us, and there's plenty of us awake now to sort of start dealing with those problems. But we don't actually need anybody else to come in and do it for us, because we've got the power there to do it ourselves. All we need, all it takes, is for us all to come together and realise that we're all in this together, and just to solve the problems for the betterment of everybody, and get rid of the selflessness.
Right, and one of your most recent books, Earth is an experiment, Duality is a game, and Love is the answer. What does that book incorporate? What do you speak about in that book?
We speak about the universal game of polarity and duality, and how there's different angels or different extraterrestrials who have taken and volunteered to take on either the role of light or dark or whatever's in between that same scale. And we basically go really, really deep into who it is, why they're doing it, and the fact that that they're really behind schedule and their plans are doomed. But nevertheless, they're still going to try, and they're still going to try and keep that grip on power, even though they realise they are doomed. And we basically just go into great detail as to what it is and why it is.
And I really liked your title, and I liked how it said, "And love is the answer." Do you go into speaking about in your book about what people can do to help their own selves?
We certainly do, yes. I mean, every one of us is an absolute fantastic being of all possibility. We can do anything we want. The problem is, from cradle to grave, at least physical grave, we are taught that we're insignificant. We're taught that we're nothing more than a five-centuality being. It's incorrect. And we do go into great detail as to how people can sort of make themselves the all possibility that they should be. I mean, a lot of this is happening naturally anyway, with solar flares dragging high-dimensional frequencies down to Earth, and people's dormant DNA is being reactivated. And once their DNA has been reactivated, then they will be the full conscious being that they should be. And we do go into great detail about this and other things.
Okay, and How are now? You mentioned like your most recent visit by Kuan Yin, and working with the Ascended Masters and Angels. Now, would you say that your books that you've written have been very much guided?
There's quite a lot in all of our books. There are basically that it's not our phrases, it's not our terminology, and some of the stuff in there is actually channeled. And I do, apart from the books as well, we do receive channeled messages from the higher realms, but certainly a lot of our written work can be attributed to influence of the higher realms, yes.
And can you explain to some of our listeners, when you say "and love is the answer," can you explain to them what is it that makes love so powerful when it comes to damaging the agenda of the dark?
I think the idea of love is that it's so powerful energetically that it basically overruns anything else. And obviously the energy of this agenda that's in place is absolutely reliant on fear energy, and keeping us down, keeping us in a dark and dense place. And love is the opposite vibration. Love in its purest form is the opposite vibration. It's the highest frequency of the universe. It's the most powerful. So if we could all come together and unite under that banner of love and realise that we're all one, we're all the same, put all of our differences aside, because, deep down we are all from the same place, really, then we would absolutely overturn what's going on. And of course, if we all had love and respect for each other, if we genuinely really did have that love and respect for each other, then how could we possibly continue to hurt each other and continue to do some of the things that we do? It just, these kind of thoughts and these kind of actions wouldn't even enter into our heads to do, because we're all on the same team. Even those that work for, bettering this or bringing in this agenda, even they, we're all part of the same thing deep down. We've all got our different roles that we've taken on for our learning experience, for the soul growth.
Right.
So at some point, we're all going to come back together anyway, and we'll probably be talking about this experience for a long time. But yeah, love is so powerful, and it's not just the kind of romantic love or the love you have for a family member. That is obviously a massive part of it, but it goes so much more beyond that. I think really it's a personal journey of discovery when you're looking into that subject, and I think we all kind of find our own meaning and our own what it means to each of us.
Now, you've also, you've written, I can't remember if it's 2 or 3 books before this one. Now, are they all basically on the same subjects, or how do your other books differ? Can you tell us about some of the other books that you've written?
Yeah, the Earth is the Experiment is our third book. We started writing about 2 years ago, and that was the third book. The first one, Walk into Light, the Journey of a Lightworker Duo, pretty much documented the start of our journey. And it was a documentation of 12 to 15 months from the point of our awakening to all the things that have happened to us. The second book, which came about, say, 12, 13 months after that, was called Beyond the Illusion, The Time of Awakening. And we talked about what the illusion was, the fact that we are, limited beings when we're not. The veil of illusion that tells us, that we're nothing more than 5 senses, that we're going to die and that's the end of us. That is basically the illusion. The Time of Awakening documented all the things that were going on and what was contributing to the awakening of humanity. So the second book sort of continued where the first left off, but it went much deeper. And then obviously the final book really is sort of no punches held.
Yeah, it sounds like almost like a series. Basically, starting out speaking of your experience and how you and your awakening experience, and then the book seems to be following along with your journey as you grow, and out of that. It's almost like the other books that have followed right along with you and your growth. And do you expect to continue writing continue along as you have?
We certainly expect to. I mean, when we first started getting sort of guidance and signs that we were going to be writing books, we resisted it and said, no way, I've never read a book, I don't enjoy books, and I'm certainly not going to be writing one. And then, literally 8 months after saying that, our first book was out. We were basically told, you're going to be writing another one, and it was, no, we're not. And then 6 months after we said that, another one came out, and so on. So it pretty much, we get the little seeds planted in our brains, and then they just work away their magic, and all of a sudden, the acorn becomes the oak tree, and just things tend to happen that way. We just live in the now, and we just go with the flow and see what happens to us.
And now, how did the two of you sit down to write these books? Were you working side by, Were you working side by side the whole time writing the books, or are these chapters where some of them are you, Michael, and some of them are you, Sarah? How did you go about working together to write?
Yeah, well, I think when we start, we both have an idea of what it is we want to put across in the book. So we're not really literally side by side when we're doing it. I mean, Mick can sort of be sitting down and downstairs for days upon end putting his parts to it. And then I sort of take it, and then I add my bits to it, and then it becomes what it is, really. So we don't really tend to have a structure. We just literally go with the flow and see how it comes out. And each time's been slightly different, but it seems to work each time. And we're always happy with the outcome. We always seem to get across what we want to get across. So it's quite an unstructured process, really. It works.
That is really interesting. And do you both actually write on your blog? Do you actually both, write there? Because I've read your articles that are on your website, and I love them because they were so in-depth and so full of really good, clear, information. Like literally when I was reading some of them, I kind of felt like you were leaving no stone unturned. Now, do you both write on your website?
We do. We both contribute to the website and the articles and the books and everything else. It's a twin flame team, and we work well together.
And I can definitely tell my listeners from reading on your blog, just like I think I read 3 or 4 articles, definitely after you read some of what they've written, you will definitely want to get at least their, newest book. And I would definitely say to get their first book, because it really always helps to read about someone's awakening experience. It's really helpful. And it may answer some, their awakening experience may answer some questions for you. And now I'd actually like to speak to you about a couple of the things I came across on your blog. What you had an article that you wrote that was called, Meet My Big Brother, and it was about chemtrails, I believe. Now, can you tell the listeners a brief explanation of what type of knowledge you share with people about chemtrails?
Yeah, basically we share that there is a multi-pronged attack on public health, and it takes many various different means, by enforced vaccinations, from fluoride in the water, from chemicals in the air. And chemtrails are basically a mixture of barium, mercury and aluminium, which in many respects blocks out the sunlight, which deprives the human body of vital vitamin D. And it's basically a multi-pronged attack on people's health, because some people will listen to this with disbelief, but we always say that corporations run this world, and there are a hidden hand behind corporations that are not entirely human, but for want of a better phrase, corporations run this world, and there's lots and lots of money in people being sick, but there's no money at all in people being well. And we are made ill and sick, and then we get sold the medicines
right.
to to put these things right, but these things are not put right by the medicines. They give us side effects, which are real effects. And then we have to have more medication, which we buy from the pharmaceutical companies, corporations, to cure the side effects. And then that, it's a vicious circle, because then we get even more side effects. So we talk deeply into, how the corporations are trying to make lots and lots of profit out of people being ill. And of course, we also go into what's called Codex Alimentarius, which is the global food code. And many people in your own country, are being prosecuted for collecting rainwater. They're having armed police raids for growing vegetables. Farmers are facing 3 years imprisonment for producing raw milk. And it's basically because, the big agricultural companies are trying to control the nation and control the people by food.
Right. And can you explain that a little bit more? I actually know what you're talking about. And I'll say this. I had someone that I know that said to me that they said, eventually they are going to make it illegal to buy and grow your own fruits and vegetables. There'll be a time when they'll try to make it against the law. And can you kind of explain what you know about what's going on with food, with what I usually call low vibration food?
Yeah, I mean, and certainly with the Codex Alimentarius side of it, there's lots of different facets to that, really. One of them is genetically modified organisms, genetically modified foods, which are being pushed on us now without really our knowledge or consent. I think in this country, it had been decided that we didn't need to be told what was in the food. It was perfectly legal to put foods on the shelves that didn't list the fact that there were genetically modified organisms within them. And certainly where GMOs are concerned, the idea of those is to genetically modify us from the inside out, because, as you said, everything has a vibration, and these foods are very low vibration, designed to have an impact on our very own genetics and our very own vibration. So these foods are not good for us. We need to stick to nature as much as possible, and what's happening with the genetic modification side of things is that we're getting further and further away from nature. Some people actually call them frankenfoods, because that's what they are, really. They're kind of monster foods, and it's not good to have this kind of stuff inside of our bodies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And do you in any of your speaking engagements, do you ever tell people, what they should definitely stay away from? Like, for example, fast food, certain canned foods. How are they supposed to know if they want to make an effort to keep their own selves healthy and safe? How are they supposed to know what to do, what foods to go for, what to stay away from? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think, again, we always advise people, as we said, just to always stay as close to nature as possible. That's probably really the best advice we could give. I mean, I think we all know what fast foods do to us, and all the chemicals that are used in these kinds of foods, and the fats that they're cooked in. I mean, the cancer rate in our country is phenomenal. We actually went to Egypt in 2010, I think it was, and we went and spent some time with the people in the desert, the Bedouin tribes. And they were showing us about their own way of life and how they live, and everything's natural, their own food. And somebody asked them, what do you do if one of you gets cancer out here? You're miles from anywhere, you're in the middle of the desert, what do you do? And basically what they said was, they sniggered at us first and then said, cancer, what's that? And they went on to explain that because of our lifestyle, the Western lifestyle, the food that we eat, the things that we put into our bodies, these are partly the reasons we get cancer. They very, very rarely get cancer out there, so they've hardly even heard of it. And it is a lot to do with the foods that we're eating and the things that we're putting into our body and ingesting. So, again, I'll just reiterate that nature's there for a reason, and we need to stay as close as possible to it.
Exactly, and that is great that you're sharing that knowledge with people, because a lot of people, don't know what is going on with their food, water with the dentist suggesting fluoride and all those things. And now, one of the other articles that you wrote that I really liked, it was called "It's All in the Mind." And within that article, you spoke about the Illuminati. You mentioned the music industry and people such as Lady Gaga, Madonna, Jay-Z. Now, how do these people fit in with the Illuminati? What do these people have to do with it?
Well, the Illuminati pretty much controls the music industry. And if people want to get to the dizzy heights of stardom and wealth and fame, sometimes they have to sell the soul in order to do it. And that's basically where they come in. But the Illuminati are very, very good at subtly getting us to worship and see their signs, their symbolisms, and they do it through, the likes of Jay-Z, who does the Illuminati pyramid. Lady Gaga goes a lot into the all-seeing eye of the Illuminati, the all-seeing eye of Horus, which is their symbolism, which is on the American $1 bill. If you look at the $1 bill, you will see the Illuminati pyramid and the Eye of Horus above it.
Yes.
And their symbolism, I think it's been worked out that each person will see 1,000 Illuminati symbols each day, and probably at least 999 of those will not be even recognised. So that they are very, very good at imposing themselves upon us.
And this is there's a lot going on subliminally. Like, for example, when you mentioned Lady Gaga, you specifically talked about things these people do when they show up at the award shows that, many of us take for granted. The way they're dressed, songs they perform, and the type of lyrics that are in those songs you spoke about.
Absolutely. I mean, again, just taking, Lady Gaga as one of thousands of examples. But if you listen to the lyrics of their songs, that they are singing about Illuminati gods, such as Ra, who is the Egyptian sun god. They're basically telling us all these things, and we're singing along and worshipping the Illuminati gods by singing to them.
Right. And now, if I ask you any questions that subjects that you'd rather not talk about, just let me know. But can you let our listeners know, you spoke of, when I asked you what these people have to do with the Illuminati, and you explained that the Illuminati is controlling the music industry, and that a lot of these people, to reach the heights of stardom that they have had to literally basically sell their souls. What eventually a lot of times ends up happening to these people?
Well, I mean, many of them remain in the public domain. If they continue to do what they're meant to do, if they continue to toe the party line, they will have a fantastic materialistic earth life, and they will stop in the public domain. There are certain individuals that we've heard of in the last couple of years that have not toed that party line, such as Michael Jackson and Whitney Houston, etc., etc. Mm-hmm. And we all know what became of them. And there are certain theories and certain aspects of society that are saying that, there are certain dates which are significant to the Illuminati human sacrifice days, and some of these deaths that have occurred just happen to fall on significant dates.
Yes.
So again, if they do what they're meant to do, all is well. And it's the same with politicians and everybody else, that they are put there to forward a particular agenda. And as long as they continue to forward that particular agenda, they will have a fantastic life, albeit, in a materialistic sense. These people are multimillionaires, so materialistically, they are literally made for life because they are willing to tell the line and to forward this particular agenda.
Right. And what you mean by, and one of the things that you may mean by, if they're willing to go along with that agenda and help them with that agenda, is they're not really looking for someone to get out in front of people and promote that love is the answer. No,
they're not, because they basically want to keep everybody in a low vibration, and love is the highest vibration in the universe. It stands for the level of vibrational energy. And in order to control people and to live off their fear, you have to eliminate any love. And that's why we see so much catastrophe, so much many wars, pretty much a world of hate and cut and crust. And that eliminates any love, but we have to introduce love ourselves, because love is the answer.
Right. And I really like that article. And as well, I found your article on NASA, Project Bluebeam. Interesting. Now, what is Project Bluebeam?
Yeah, we touched on that briefly earlier. Again, multifaceted thing here. Project Bluebeam is it was a document that was revealed some years ago by a man named Sergei Manasseh, who worked on the inside for the Illuminati. And he basically let everybody know by leaking this document that there were certain plans in place that included mind control, that included holographic images in the sky of people's messiahs all around the world, and also UFO invasion slash visitation. And many different aspects of Project Bluebeam. It's been widely mentioned for the 2012 London Olympics, actually, that there may well be some kind of event that takes place there, either terrorist or what would look like a terrorist attack, or some kind of full-scale alien invasion slash visitation. And again, what this Project Bluebeam, the goal again of Project Bluebeam is to invoke some kind of event, which will be a false flag event. It won't be as it is portrayed, in order to forward and install the one world government of the New World Order. And I think the idea and the thinking behind it is that certainly where the UFO and the holographic images thing comes into it, is that if, for instance, all of a sudden we were invaded by beings from another planet, or so it would seem to be, very quickly the governments of the world would come together as one, unite under one banner in order to deal with this problem, which will be a false flag problem. It won't be real, but it will be portrayed as being real in order to install this world government.
Right.
It's also been mentioned about the fact that, we mentioned earlier that there's, another idea is to bring in this one world religion. But to do that, they need to unite all the messiahs of the world, all the different people's religions and faiths, into one banner.
Right.
So it said that they have the ability to make the different messiahs of people's religions appear in the sky all around the world in the different regions according to, the faith of that region.
Right.
And then they would all combine together to become the new God, the new Messiah, which, again, when you go into it, there's talk of the Antichrist and all of this sort of thing. And then there's the mind control aspect to it, controlling people's minds to make us more compliant. And it's a very, very long document. It's very interesting. It can be quite frightening, but I think it's probably good to mention at this point is that not to worry about this, because the fear aspect is what they want. They want us to be in fear. Because that's the energy that they feed off, and that's what keeps this whole agenda playing out.
Right.
And we need to remember that, we're so much more bigger than all of this anyway. Even when we're finished here on this planet, this is like a little drama. It's something that we're going through at the moment,
right?
To learn and experience. So although this stuff is all going on, and it all sounds very, quite doomy and gloomy, not to get yourself down about it, because it's just an experience.
Right. Exactly. And even though we don't want anyone to be fearful, we don't want anyone to lose sleep at night, at the same time, do you see it as important that people are at least a little bit aware of some of these things, so that when it happens, they won't get totally sucked in by it?
Absolutely. It's become our passion. We get criticised, we get branded as fearmongers, but we're basically passionate that people need to know what's going on, that this system relies on people not knowing. And we say, if you heard on the news that there's a tornado heading towards someone's house, would you ring them up and tell them so they can leave, or would you just say, oh well, I don't want to scare them, and just let their house get blown up?
Right.
It's the same sort of thing. We are passionate that people need to know what's going on, because only then can we actually do something about it. The system relies on apathy, it relies on ignorance, it relies on people not knowing what they're doing.
Right, exactly. And I mean, anyone who is into metaphysics, anyone who is, like for example, studied or who manifests precognizance, I get a lot of people that will ask the question when they start to manifest precognizance, like, okay, well, I don't understand. If I had a dream about an impending earthquake, well, I don't understand why did I need to know that? Why was I given that information ahead of time? Or what? And often what I tell them is it's so that you know that it's coming, so that you can stay in harmony and not kind of go to emotional pieces like many others will.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting subject, something that we're very interested in also. I mean, it's also possible that although we always speak about being given information, sometimes it's possible that we actually attune ourselves to information. We kind of tap into what's become known as the cosmic internet,
Right.
where all information is accessible to anybody that tunes into it. And sometimes, I mean, we don't know how we do it or why it happens, but sometimes we happen to just tune in, and we do, we get glimpses of things that may or may not occur, depending on the timeline. And, there's also, different realities playing out. So, sometimes it's, we're doing the tuning in and we're actually going in and getting the information, albeit we're not always sure how that occurs. Sometimes that's the way it happens.
Right, even though it seems like it's given to us, really the thing we're not realizing is that, for whatever reason, during a certain time, we were connected to that, like, mass consciousness.
Absolutely, and also when there's a big event coming, the energy of that event comes first, and the energy of that event actually reaches the astral planes, and many people actually spend a lot of their dream time in the astral planes. So it could also be that they're actually picking up on the energy of the event before the event.
Okay, that's very interesting that you say that. And now, do you yourselves have a lot of those? Do you have a lot of those experiences? I mean, how did you become so knowledgeable about all the information you speak on? Was this just through study, or was this also through the visits that you've had with the Ascended Masters and Angels?
It's a bit of everything, really. I mean, I don't know if we call ourselves very knowledgeable. I think a lot of the stuff that we get is intuitive, really. We've kind of, as we've gone on, we've learned to really work on our intuition, and it really has helped us through. And it's something that's always developing. So a lot of the things these days, we can feel ourselves actually tuning in and getting the information for ourselves. And yeah, we do very much recently, actually, for some reason. I mean, certainly for myself, I'm getting a lot of dreams at the moment where little things that I'll dream of will come true in the next couple of days. I mean, silly things, really. Like the other night I dreamt about my mum was telling me, she was showing me a new a gas and electricity bill, and she was telling me how they'd gone up, and she was moaning and saying, oh, it's terrible, it's up to £80 each. And when we went round a couple of days later, she got her bills out, and she said, you won't believe it, they've put the bills up, £75, £80 each they are, and it's basically what she told me in the dream. So some of these things, it's like, what did I need to know that for?
Yes.
Maybe it's not a case of me actually needing to know, maybe it was just a case I happened to just tune in, and that's what I tuned into. So
exactly. And I know exactly what you mean, because I get those dreams too, just as I'm, drifting off. I'll immediately get that little short dream where it plays out a scenario like, my parents will be coming over to do this and that, and I literally can't jump up and go, oh, okay, I've got to get ready because they're coming over, and in fact, that is what happens. However, like many of the listeners, they do have these experiences going on. However, it takes some time, if you want to make those experiences like literally useful in your daily life, it does take some time to really trust what you're getting, because sometimes you get things that don't make any sense.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the time as well, certainly when we're starting out, and we were guilty of it as well, you try and make things happen as well, and then you try and convince yourself that it's true and it's right. But it's very different when it happens intuitively. There's like a feeling. I can't really explain it, but there's just a feeling. It's a knowing. It's a an absolute 100% knowing. There's no questioning whatsoever whether it's right or wrong. You just know it is because it's the feeling that you get. And I mean, it is happening so much more recently. I mean, and it really is encouraging to see the amount of people now that have an experiences that they can't explain and they've never had before. And we're talking about the awakening and how people really are starting to wake up consciously to what's going on and to themselves. And we're seeing seeing and hearing all of these examples from people that it is actually happening to. So it is happening. There's something actually happening. We're not just all the people that talk about this stuff are not making it up. We can actually see it face to face. And these little experiences, sometimes as insignificant as they may seem, it just shows that we are so much more than what we're led to believe. And if we could tap into that fully, imagine what we'd be capable of.
Exactly. Now, do you have a lot of people that you feel, I don't know, do you get contacted by a lot of people? Do people contact you through your blog, asking you, through your website, asking you questions, or after reading your book, do you have people contacting you, asking you questions? Does that happen to you a lot?
It does, and sometimes we can start really early in the morning and still be on the computer at midnight, 2 o'clock in the morning. People who we've never heard of just ring us up on our cell phone. We have lots and lots of emails. We have lots and lots of questions from various sort of social network sites.
Yeah.
And we love helping people. We love we don't have the answers to everything, and we never ever claim to. But when we can answer things for people, then it is more than a pleasure to answer it for them, because that's part of our journey here. That's part of our life purpose, to help others, and sometimes the only way you can really empathise and help others is if you've actually been through it, and we've been through quite a lot in the last couple of years.
Yes, and your experience of awakening and all the way through your journey is just amazing. And do you feel that a lot of people are actually guided to you when they're at that place where they're just starting to awaken? They've got questions, they're confused, they don't know what to make of things. Do you feel that a lot of the people are being guided to you?
I think they are. I mean, our spirit guides will talk to each other. Even now, our spirit guides are probably communicating in another reality somewhere. And people tend to find the people or the information that they need. Many people have said, they've been into the local library and a book's fallen off the shelf, and it just so happens that it answers the questions they have. Lots and lots of people. We even had a notification the other day that the two people had begun a relationship because they met on one of our blog pages.
Oh wow!
So and it's really, really, well, it's lovely. There's no greater sort of honour than helping people, and when they find you, and some of the synchronistic events, it just can't be a coincidence. That you find people for a reason.
No, and I can attest to that, because I can tell you that for the last few weeks, even before I contacted you, I kept saying that I really wanted to have a guest on the radio show that could speak about the exact topics, a lot of them that you speak and write about. And I remember saying to myself, well, I have no idea how to specifically find that type of guest. And then when I came across your website quite by accident, because I really didn't know how to search out the exact type of guest I was looking for, I ended up at your website somehow. And I just read a little bit, went ahead and contacted you. You contacted me back, and you said that you would be a guest. And it was then after that I went back to your website and took the time to do a lot of reading and everything to get more fully aware of the things that you spoke and wrote about. And so I can attest to the fact that, I put the thought out there that I was looking for someone exactly like you, and then amazingly, there you were.
Well, thank you. It's very interesting. It's the first time we've been made aware of that, but yeah, it is. I mean, there's greater forces at work than our physical shell, and we like to see them as our non-physical agents, and they bring people to us, and likewise, if there's anything we need, we always find the people that we need as well. So there are always greater forces at work.
Exactly. The two of you have been a wonderful guest. And I actually hope that you can come on the show again at a later time, and we can continue, going maybe more in depth on some of the things that we've discussed. That would be, wonderful if you maybe would be willing to do that in the future, because I'm sure the listeners would love to hear from you again.
Yeah, that would be brilliant. Thank you, Sharon. We really enjoyed the show. Thanks very much for having us.
And let's take a few minutes and let's give out all your information. Now, first of all, Michael and Sarah's website is Michael and Sarah Feeley, and I'm going to spell it MichaelAndSarahFeeley.com. And if you go to their website, you'll not only find the links that they have that'll lead you to, their blog, but there's also a link that says, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm remembering correctly, you have a link that says shop, and that will take them to an area where they'll see where they can purchase your books, correct?
Yeah, that's right. We also do ebooks on there for people that prefer electronic versions of the books.
I saw that. Yes, yeah. I'm one of those.
They can go for our shop. But our books are now available physically in the US now as well, from Amazon.com.
Oh, awesome.
So, if anybody's looking for them over that part of the world, then they're now available.
Now, do you have those on Kindle as well?
We don't at the moment, but as I say, people do prefer the ebook version. They can get them from our shop, but we are working on the Kindle version, so hopefully not too much longer. Okay,
and now do you want to give out either your email address or your office phone in case someone just has a question about today's show, so you can guide them either to the right book or to where on your website they can find the information?
Certainly, yes. Our email address is michaelandsarahfeeley@hotmail.com. And we've already said the website, michaelandsarahfeeley.com. We also have the free newsletter that people can sign up to through the website. So, that's all there. Anybody can contact us anytime. We're more than open to speak to people.
And now the newsletter, that's how they'll keep up to date with if you have any more books coming out. And I'm sure you're going to tell me that you've said no already.
We've definitely said no, but if somebody else has other plans, then I'm sure we can be talking to it.
So we'll be seeing your next book soon.
No, it's a definite now.
So if you sign up for their newsletter, then at least you can be kept up to date about the things they're writing on. And, I mean, really, I can tell you, a lot of people have made comments that when I write on my blog, I write these really, really long posts. And everybody's going, did it have to be so long? But I actually love, post articles that are in depth that, have loads of information in them. So really sign up for their newsletter so that you'll be notified whenever they're writing anything new. And you have been a wonderful guest, and thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks again, Sherry. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. And everyone who's listening, thank you for listening. I hope you've enjoyed today's show. And if you if you didn't catch everything we said at the end about where to go, who to email, all the information will be on the website by this evening so that you can go there so you'll know how to find Michael and Sarah and their books. And I thank you for listening.